Did they leave, Ms. Hines, or? Okay, outstanding.
Good evening. Thank you for waiting so patiently. Our first round of students is our Diversity Task Force students. We are pleased to present tonight for them their community service recognition for all the work that they did with us for this first year of our Diversity Task Force work. Our student voices are the #1 thing that we really honored and we're really appreciative and proud of to have on our task force this year. And so I'd like to welcome down our students. Ms. Provenzali is going to give me the name of all the students so we can start. All right, first we have up, of course, I'm sorry, Ariba Ashraf. Congratulations, Ariba. You can go right up to the top there. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, my glasses. Ariba, we're so proud of you. Thank you so much. And also, I had the pleasure about 2 weeks ago to also see Ariba. She joined our new Commissioner of Education, and she was on a task force around diversity hiring. Thank you so much, Ariba, for your voice this year and for being such a wonderful representative of Sachem. Nishta Borga. Thank you, Nishta. And again, your voice, we just welcome so much this year. We are very appreciative and thank you so much for all your hard work and commitment. McKenna. Okay. Can I have my glasses, Ms. Capel-Even? Thank you. I apologize. The older I get, it's really hard to squint and see. I'm sorry, McKenna. I don't call you by your last names, right? So we all just know each other by first names. Thank you so much. Thanks. Okay, there we go. McKenna Hamoon, thank you so much. The next is Tara Giroux. Thank you, Tara, for joining us. Thank you so much for your voice this year. We really appreciate you being a part. Alana Lux. Thank you, Alana. Alana's voice this year, we really appreciated all of your dedication. From day one, Alana, you were very passionate about diversity work that we're doing in our school system, and we really appreciate your voice. Okay, Samuela Volsi. Oh, he wasn't just. Thank you so much, Samuela, again for joining us in your voice this year. Tyler Thurston, thank you so much, Tyler. Tyler, we really appreciate your voice this year in terms of your experience in going through Sachem. It was very candid, and we really appreciated your feedback in terms of how it has been going through our system, and we really appreciate your feedback as we grow towards more equity in our special education program as well. Nick Latado. Hi, Nick. Thank you for joining us. You can go right on the stairs, Nick. And again, Nick, thank you so much for your feedback this year and in sharing your experiences as you've gone through Sachem and now over at Sachem East. Thank you so much. Sylvia Ramirez. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for joining us. We appreciate your voice. And while we have these representatives here tonight, and we're so thankful that they can join us, please know that we had several more student representatives that joined us on our diversity task force work this year. Again, it's around equity and making sure that everything that's going on in our schools suits the needs of all of our students. And so thank you so much for joining us this year, and we look forward to our work continuing next year.
I'd like to personally thank the Diversity Task Force members as well. And can we get a quick picture with the board with our student members?
Thank you again to our courageous voices. Thank you.
And now Taylor Tahar, can you please come to the microphone?
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor Tahar, and I'm the welding instructor at the ISIL Career Center, here with Peter Lepore, my principal at the ISIL Career Center. My student, Daniel Valdez, is a first-year welding student who is very motivated and comes into school each day ready to work. In the short time spent at the ISIL Career Center, Daniel has taken and passed his vertical uphand arc welding qualification test, which is a welding process geared for structural welding applications. Daniel has also taken his arc welding overhead qualification and waiting on his results. Daniel has also been practicing for his pipe welding qualification, which most students do not start until their second year. With these qualification tests, Daniel has marketable skills that will help him gain employment in the field. Daniel's growth in the time spent at the Career Center has been inspiring. We are all very proud of Daniel and his success at the ISIL Career Center. Congratulations on your hard work, Daniel. Thank you. One more time. Thank you, guys.
And now can I have Ms. Wrigley, please?
Good evening. My name is Katrina Wrigley, and I am one of the art teachers at Sachem High School East. I am here tonight to highlight 11th grader Samantha Christian, who is quickly gaining momentum and recognition within the Sachem Art Department and beyond. Samantha recently participated in a high school competition called Long Island's Best, hosted by the Heckscher Museum of Art in Huntington. Only 83 out of 331 submissions were accepted into the competition, and all pieces accepted were displayed in the museum for a month. Samantha's 36 by 48-inch acrylic painting titled Overwhelmed captures the emotions that so many have felt throughout this year: feelings of anxiety, losing control, and chaos. In addition to Samantha's outstanding achievement of being accepted into the museum, She also received 2 awards, the Heckscher Achievement Award and Huntington Fine Arts Honorable Mention. This mesmerizing and emotional piece has now spread beyond the walls of the museum and has gained recognition in outside states, resulting in Samantha's first sale as an artist to a woman from Massachusetts. Samantha is a humble, dedicated, and goal-oriented student, always striving to take risks and work beyond her limits. I would now like to call up Samantha Christian.
And will Jan Zetwak please report to the microphone, please?
Good evening. My name is Jan Zetwak. This is Mike Nowakowski. We are the coaching staff for the Sachem Gymnastics program. And tonight we are here to recognize Riley McPartland. Riley has just completed her freshman season. Oh, go ahead. Riley has just completed her freshman season with the Sachem varsity gymnastics team. And despite all of the challenges that faced her with the season during COVID, she did not let anything get in the way of her focus and her training. In fact, with 1 year under her belt as a Sachem varsity gymnast, we saw a greater focus and calm in her during her championship meets than ever before. Riley finished the dual meet season ranked as the top all-around gymnast in Suffolk County. And then at the individual county champions, she placed second on vault, first on bars, second on beam, first on floor, and first all around, landing her a spot on the as an all-around on the first ever Long Island Championship team that was created since States was canceled. At the Long Island Championship meet, Riley helped Suffolk County take the win over Nassau and finished in second place on every event, including all-around, establishing her as the #2 gymnast on Long Island. Riley eats, sleeps, and breathes gymnastics and has an incredibly bright future ahead of her. We are so proud of Riley and cannot wait to see how Riley grows as a part of the Sachem Varsity Gymnastics program. Great job, Riley. Keep up the amazing work. Up there too.
Next, let's call forward coaches Katie Brzezinski and David Maskowitz, introduce the North Varsity Arouettes.
Good evening. My name is Katie Przinski, and this is David Maskowitz. We are the coaches for the Sachem North Varsity Arouettes dance team. A special thank you to Dr. Pelletieri, the Board of Education, Mr. Larson, and the entire Sachem Athletics office, especially Gary Butel and Shannon McEntee, who show our program endless support and guidance all year long. We are so honored to be recognized at this meeting tonight. A huge thank you to the parents of our team. They are an amazing group of people who really showed encouragement and positive support to their children and to myself and David during this very unique season. So thank you to our SNBA parents. And lastly, but certainly not least, a huge congratulations to the 14 incredible, talented dancers that are standing right in front of you tonight. They are such an extraordinary group of young athletes. They are talented, kind, humble, and positive beyond words. We're just so grateful we were able to have a season at all this year. We were able to compete virtually, which was something we had to learn about, which was not easy. And these kids really stepped up to the plate and just did amazing. Up until that last week before taping, we quarantined 2 dancers, one 24 hours before. So we had to fix things. They did it with smiles on their faces. We competed in the virtual round of NDA nationals and prelims and finals. We went from 8th to 6th in small varsity jazz and from 4th to 1st in medium varsity pom, earning our 15th NDA national championship title. We're just extremely grateful to be national champions and have the opportunity to represent Sachem North High School. It truly is an honor. We want to recognize our 3 SMVA seniors, Krista Daniello, Sophia Ladico, and Captain Mackenzie Tersigny. These girls have been such a huge part of our program, and we're so excited for them for their next chapters. And we really just wanted to thank everybody again one last time for having us tonight. Congratulations, girls. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call forward our coaches of our county championship Sachem East girls soccer team, Coach Tom Anson and Casey Lunderman.
Good evening, Superintendent Pelletieri, President Piccirillo, Board of Education trustees, members of the Sachem administration, and parents. My name is Tom Anson, along with Casey Ludeman. We're the coaches of the 2021 League One and Suffolk County champion girls soccer team at Sachem East. The girls bet me I wouldn't get this done in 2 minutes, so I'm going to read fast. On behalf of myself, Coach Ludeman, and the 28 members of the team, thank you for inviting us here tonight and for recognizing the wonderful accomplishments of our team and all the other student athletes throughout the district. Despite the challenges of quarantines, positive COVID cases, numerous injuries, and the difficulties of the hybrid and remote learning, these amazing young ladies overcame it all and finished with an undefeated record of 12 wins, 0 losses, 1 tie. Finished first in League One, earned our first county championship in 13 years. The applause is going to make me go over 2 minutes. The girls outscored our opponents by an impressive 60-8 margin while earning 7 shutouts, scoring an average of almost 5 goals per game, and with the exception of the county finals, winning every game by at least 2 goals. Amongst the 28 players on this team, we've had 7 All-County, 3 All-League, 2 Newsday All-Long Island, 1 League Player of the Year, the top 2 goal scorers in Class AA, and the top point earner in the county. As impressive as they are on the field, these girls are equally impressive off the field. The team was recognized as a scholar athlete team, which is earned when 75% of the team has a combined weighted average above a 90. Our team had an average of a 99. Almost there. In addition, we had 7 seniors earn all-league academic, which is an average of a 90 plus in their senior transcript. 3 seniors ranked in the top 15 of the graduating class. And finally, we had 2 seniors earn all-county academic, which is awarded to the top 10 academic performing seniors in the county. We are extremely proud of these amazing group of young ladies for all they've had to overcome, for the hard work they put in every day, both on the field and in the classroom, and for the determination and desire they showed all season long. Thank you again for your time, and thank you for recognizing the 2021 Suffolk County Girls Soccer Champions. Congratulations.
Good job. That was good.
I don't know, that's going to be a hard act to follow. County champions. Next, I'm going to introduce some of our athletes who have made athletic honors individually for their performance in the sport of their choice. A lot of these athletes that you see here are repetitious, that they've been on many of these championship teams that we've had. I'm sorry if I'm going to mispronounce a name or two. I'll do the best that I can. Starting first, Madison. 1 second. See, I'm too fast, even for the soccer team. Someone got my humor. I mean, the best thing about this is just that with all the uncertainties going on during the year, it was nice to see the kids back doing the things that they love to do after school, and just great to honor them here tonight. So let's give them all a nice round of applause just for being back out there. All right, our first honoree is Madison Apicella, All League One Player of the Year, All County Girls Soccer. Virgilio Bastiglia, All Division First Team, All County Varsity Football. Abigail Carroll, All County Varsity Soccer. Logan Catalanato, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coaches Association Second Team. Corey Simonino, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coaches Association First Team. Emma Fury, All League Academic and All County Varsity Soccer. Billie Jean Hennessy, All-League Academic and All-County Varsity Soccer. Megan Higgins, All-County Varsity Field Hockey. Emily Hahn, All-State Varsity Field Hockey. Cameron Lee, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coaches Association third team, academic all division team, all division first team for football, all county football, LaBelle Award, Top Suffolk County Scholar Athlete Award, and League 2 MVP varsity football. Chris Leonard, all academic and Suffolk County varsity volleyball. Lauren Lucas, all state varsity field hockey. Rob Mankiewicz, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coach Association, third team. Francesca Manzella, All County Varsity Field Hockey. Summer Matlat, All County Gymnastics. Bryce McCann, All Academic and All County Varsity Volleyball.
Will Lynn, and skip. William Lynn.
William Lynn, All County Varsity Volleyball. Riley McPartland, All County and All State Gymnastics. Ava Misalia, All County Varsity Soccer. Daniela Nivia, All County Varsity Field Hockey. Richie Panajo, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coach Association, third team. Danielle Piro, All Division first team and All County Varsity Football. Jack Pickersgill, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coaches Association, second team. Kira Russ, All County Varsity Diving. Angelina Chicalone, All County Tournament and All County Varsity Volleyball. Megan Smith, All Classification and All County Tournament for Varsity Volleyball. Johnny Tejan, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coaches Association, first team and All State. Mikey Tejan, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coaches Association, second team. Erica Urbansick, All County Varsity Soccer. Samantha Watson, All County Varsity Swimming. Jared Winehouse, All Suffolk County Wrestling Coaches Association, first team.
Casey Bowles.
Casey Voles, All County Varsity Field Hockey. And Morgan Zimmerman, All State Varsity Field Hockey. Now, I know some of you athletes have even made more honors after we started to do the recognition. Some of you have gone on to make all Long Island teams and different All-American teams, things like that. But because of the timing of it all, when we were scheduled to do this, this is the honors you won at that time. But I just want to say to all those athletes, congratulations on all of your hard work and all your honors in and out of the classroom, on the fields and everything else. Nice job. Yeah, parents, don't be shy. Get your spot, get your picture, come right up in front.
Busy. Thank you very much, everyone. I just want to be certain that there isn't any student here who wasn't recognized tonight in any way, right? We didn't miss anyone? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Great job by all. And again, that's why we're here. So I apologize, that may have taken a little bit longer than we thought it might, but when we honor our kids, that's what we're about. So thank you very much. Ms. Trombetta is going to jump in and give us a UPK update. Ms. Trombetta is running our UPK program. There were additional monies this year. We're going to have full day and half day UPK. She's going to walk us through that. There are copies of the presentation outside. Unfortunately, we could not present it tonight on screen, but there are copies outside if you want it. And we all have copies here at the dais. Thank you, Ms. Trombetta.
Good evening. We posted the new lottery for the UPK application last week on Sachem's website. It is due the 11th of June by 3 p.m., and we hold strong to that deadline. The lottery selection will take place on June 14th. Names will be selected by the auditors, and they'll be put in order at that point. And the families will be notified by June 28th. The reason there's a big gap between those two is because we did give the parents the opportunity to select, if they weren't given their first choice, if they'd be interested in their second choice. So after we go through the lottery and the selections, we're going to take a look at those not selected and reach out to them if there is room for the backup choice. So that's why there's more time there. It's very important that families adhere to the guidelines and the deadlines that are in the letters, and they will receive a packet. If they are selected, they'll receive a thick packet with all instructions to help walk them through everything. My office can also answer any questions with that. The second slide there is the UP Lottery application. I know this is our second application for the lottery, and all those that had previously applied for the lottery earlier in the year that we did not use have been reached out to make sure that they are aware of a second lottery, so no one will miss out on applying for that. After you are selected, it's very important that you apply to not only Sachem, you register through Sachem, but you register with Scope. And if you do that, you can go to scopeonline.us. And there's tabs that'll walk you through the registration process. You are not charged any money for this. It'll be, they will know that you are part of the lottery system through Sachem. And again, please make sure you adhere to all the deadlines because we don't want anyone to lose their placement if they are selected. UPK and pre-K basically, what they do, they adhere to the New York State learning standards and preschool age for aged children. There's a balance between the academics and social learning. Instruction is delivered through individual, group, small group, large group, and it's guided with differentiated learning for all students to help them along the way. This year, because we are going to be offering a half-day program and a full-day program, the programs are very similar. The only difference would be that the full-day program would have more of whole group learning and center time. But in addition, both of them would have morning meetings. They'd have center time, snack, whole group learning, read alouds, outdoor and indoor play, and closing activities. The difference being the half-day program is 2.5 hours and the full-day program is 5 hours. This year with the 5-hour program, we are working with Scope to utilize the before and after school program for families that need longer days that are working families. We are working right now through that as far as the timing, but we're looking to do 9:45 to 2:45 at Cayuga, Chippewa, Grundy, Hiawatha, Linwood, Tamarack, Waverly, and Winona, and 9 to 2 with Merrimack and Nokomis. The way it would work with before and after school care is the kids would stay in the before care and after care longer, so it would meet the timelines for their 5-hour program, the UPK program. At this time, we don't know the cost of that. The Scope is working that out, and also the hours. We're working that out to see exactly what time drop-off would be, and also pick up, and the difference in the time gaps in the morning and the afternoon. This is, the UPK is very important, and it's a wonderful program because it prepares our students for kindergarten when they enter Sachem. It gives them opportunity to be in our buildings and get accustomed to the building and the teachers and the environment, and it makes for a very smooth transition. There's parent involvement, just like there would be in regular elementary school. There's conferences, there's meet and greets, there's open house, there's mystery readers and opportunities for parents to come in. And the parents also get an opportunity to participate in the special occasions that occur in the program. When you are chosen, and if you are chosen, the registration requirements, all students must be immunized upon entrance according to the state guidelines. Physicals must be up to date. You need to have 2 proofs of residency required for registration, and you'll get a list of what's acceptable as 2 forms of residency, and all families must agree to the parking and attendance guidelines. If you miss too many classes, you would be dropped from the program, and we'd go through the wait list for students wanting to be in the program. This year, we're very fortunate that Sachem has been awarded close to $1.3 additional million to provide for the full day UPK program only. Our old money can be used for half day in addition to full day, but the new monies can only be used for full day programs. We are offering the before and after school program to make this longer than the 5 hours that is being utilized for the program. And again, this program is contingent upon the funding that we receive in the future. We don't know if we'll have full day program in the future going forward. We're very excited about this opportunity. Right now, looking at what we have, it looks like 75% of our responses are requesting full day and 25 is requesting half day. And we're hoping to accommodate as many families as possible and give them this opportunity with the additional monies we are receiving from the state. Yes.
Mr. Trombetta, thank you very much. There's a great deal of information there, so they can find this on the website.
Yes.
And they can contact you perhaps also.
100%. You can call
If,
my
any
office. We'd be
questions.
happy to help with any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, Meredith.
With the parents being notified by June 28th, does that affect any parents who, for whatever reason, may not make it into our program and may have to find private pre-K?
We did reach out to the other outside agencies that are daycares and preschools to let them know that we were going to be holding full day. So they are aware of the program that is occurring at Sachem, and they are aware that our lottery is taking place later. And so hopefully it would not. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Just a quick question. A parent that's seeking halftime pre-K will only apply for halftime?
Yes,
Person seeking
on the
full-time?
lottery, they had to choose where they were applying for half day or full day. And then they had an option of letting us know if they were interested in, if they didn't get their first selection, would they be interested if room was allowed for the second selection? So we have a list of those with emails and we'll be reaching out to them.
So the spots are still going to be limited. The first $599,000 is for half day and the remaining $1.2 million is for full day?
The 1.3 million has to be for full day. We can utilize our old monies for both.
Do we know what each one will accommodate? We know about 252 kids for halftime, the $599,
So it would be basically 223 kids for full day as well.
20,
So,
23
yeah.
days.
We're looking at 223 for half and 223 for full. But if looking at 75% wanting full programs, we're going to be hopefully utilizing some of the money we had prior for full day programs as well.
Thank you.
Jim?
So every elementary building will house full-time and part-time?
Right now, we haven't looked at it, but based on the survey that went out and the applications, it looks like the need will definitely be there for every single building.
Okay, thanks.
Not every pre-K, not every building will have half day.
No, right now, we will be utilizing every building will have a full day program and some elementaries will have half.
Do we know which ones?
Not yet. We're working through that because we're looking at classrooms and who can accommodate what. So we're based on the enrollment.
Okay, so
for regular.
if a parent chooses not full-time, part-time, at the moment, they don't know what building will be housing that.
They do not. And
Okay.
in addition, full day is, right now, we're looking to have one per building. If we have more, if Tamarack, more students are selected in Tamarack and we need to fill more than those 18, we'd have to be using other buildings as well for that.
So it's possible that somebody, say, in a Tamarack area, if Tamarack is full, they may be offered full-time in a different elementary.
Yes.
Okay.
Meredith?
Initially, when we were kind of working out some details, we had said that we might be using Seneca. Are we utilizing Seneca at all?
Yes, we'll be using Seneca for half-day programs.
Okay, and where are those children comparative to the middle school children? They're kept pretty
They're in a
far away?
separate wing area, and bathrooms would be for them only,
Great.
separate area.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Mrs. Trombetta.
I'm just going to add that due to an infusion of federal funds and state funds, we're able to move to full day. We've had historically a half-day program. We hope that, we know we'll continue to advocate, I'm sure families will as well, around keeping those funds flowing so that we can continue with the full-day program beyond the next year or so. So thank you.
Before we move to the agenda, I just wanted to recognize our newly elected board members, Sabrina Pickowitz, Vincent Reynolds, and Michael Isernia. They will be sworn in on July 6th. I don't know what time the meeting is yet. I think we may move it earlier, but we look forward to them joining us up here. Congratulations.
Alex, before we begin, can I just say a few things? I wanted to do it when we have enough of a captive audience still.
Can we wait just till the end? Because we have a lot of people waiting to speak and it's more of a board discussion type of thing. Is that okay? Well,
sure.
Okay. Letter F on page 2 is approval of minutes for the May 5th, May 12th, and May 18th, 2021 meetings. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Sarah, seconded by Matthew. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Visitors. Each visitor will be afforded 3 minutes. There are some that we're going to take out of order because we know that there's a childcare issues and we took a little bit longer with student recognitions. Mrs. Eileen Dunn-Norman. When it's your turn, we can come right here to the front. The microphone is right here. Do we have a? Yeah. Sounds good.
Hi, my name is Eileen Dunn-Norman. I have 2 students in the Sachem School District. One of the things that Sachem prides itself on safety of children, but we have a big problem. Our most vulnerable students, the students that are disabled and rely on one-on-one aids, there's issues with aids not being with them. There's issues with aides not being close to them. And they don't get formally trained. So they're not able to manage the students' issues. Through my own experience, I found out that there is no written plan to document training. The curriculum, there's no curriculum for these aides. They're trained by teachers, which might work for the elementary school, but when you get up to middle school, there's 5 or 6 different teachers, probably everybody telling them how to do things different ways. There's no plan to manage or supervise these aides as well. I'd like to know if the Board of Ed is aware that there was a student who eloped Sagamore in late February. Can you raise your hand if you know about that? There was a student who eloped the building because the aide was not with them in February. Does anybody on the Board of Ed here know about that?
Mrs. Dunn, we're just going to ask you just to keep going. We're not going to go back and
Okay,
forth.
well, I'll say by show of hands, it looks like nobody's really aware of that. Now, what I'm here for is that could be a lawsuit. That could be a lawsuit on this district. There have been students that have gotten their hands on EpiPens and stuck themselves because the aides are not where they're supposed to be, and they're not trained well enough to know that there are certain students with cognitive issues that also are very impulsive and will do things that are not safe. Hence the reason why they have one-on-one aides. It's shocking to me to find out that we have no policy for these aides. We have no written documentation on what kind of training curriculum they're going to take, who's going to manage them, and who's going to supervise them. The other issue is that these one-on-one aides are not permitted to attend CSE meetings. Why is that? They spend 6 hours a day with that student. They have valuable information about that student that could be shared at a CSE meeting. But yet I'm told there's a policy that they can't attend. But yet there's no written policy, because I've asked Dr. Pelletieri's office, I've asked the Sagamore School District, I've even asked Mrs. Florio for these written policies, but they don't exist.
Ms. Norman, your 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Well, I just hope that you take this seriously, because one day it's going to end up in a lawsuit.
Excuse me, Mrs. Fury?
Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak to you regarding the district's plans for high school graduation. My daughter happened to be one of the students here this evening who was honored for her academic and athletic abilities. Last week, we were told that the bleachers will not be open to spectators during graduation. Each graduate will be allowed 2 guests and will sit with their guests on the football field. This is very similar, if not exactly the same, as the ceremonies that took place last year, with the exception of size. Last year, we were just being released from mandatory stay-at-home orders, so we all understood why the ceremonies were taking place in that fashion. It is now June 2021. There are no longer mandatory stay-at-home orders, and the governor has lifted many COVID restrictions throughout the state. So why is Sachem continuing to plan graduation ceremonies as if it was still July 2020? Our seniors have had a very challenging year and have dealt with many unavoidable disappointments, but they have persevered to get to this very important day, the day they proceed with their peers onto the field as pomp and circumstances played, and their loved ones watch with pride and joy from the audience. A day they have dreamed about and worked tirelessly for over the past 13 years. Usually, this day is the culmination of many exciting activities that they have looked forward to and participated in. However, many of these activities did not take place, and if they did, they were entirely different from what the students had been looking forward to. I understand that canceling and changing these traditional senior activities were unavoidable due to the governor's restrictions. But now, here we are, 22 days prior to Sachem East's graduation ceremonies. Ceremonies, with the exception of size, that can take place the traditional way, the way the seniors have been looking forward to. The governor's current COVID regulations state that
Ms. Fury, it's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, anyway, these kids, some of them are not going to college. This is the only opportunity they will have to proceed to pomp and circumstance. They deserve it. This isn't about us, it's about them.
Emma Fury? Okay. Mrs. Kelton?
Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of our children to demand that the Sachem District or Sachem District School District allow our children to attend school unmasked. I know I represent the masses when I say we parents are done. We, the parents, want leaders on our board, not order followers. We want you to stand up for our kids and take a stand on the right side of history. Stand for the individual freedoms, such as freedom to choose to mask or not mask, freedom to breathe, which is a God-given right. You must all know by now that these shots, mask wearing, and PCR testing fall under what is called an EUA, an emergency use authorization. Since none of these are currently FDA approved and experimental at this time and fall under the EUA, they cannot be forced or coerced upon anyone. This is currently in a trial phase. Think about that for a moment, will you? Has Cuomo presented this school district with the data and with the actual science to show why he's still pushing for our children to be masked up for 7+ hours a day in school? He has not, because that data does not exist. Based on parents in this district requesting the information over and over again for months and months from Cuomo, the state, the health commissioner, the Suffolk County Department of Health, and the county executive's office. We have done FOIL requests, and the same response comes back stating that the data does not exist and therefore cannot be provided to us. Strange, right? When I call the Department of Health, they indicate that the schools who choose not to follow the guidelines and recommendations will not have any repercussions held against them. And they advise me as well that they do not control what the district does or doesn't do. Continuing measures based on fear and emotions is no longer acceptable, especially based off of a whole year's worth of data between states, counties, and cities that have ended mask mandates and virus-related rules versus those states that have not. School boards and others are placing the greatest restrictions on the least vulnerable. Where is the science in that? With a year and 3 months behind us, we now have the shots for those who choose to get them, as well as the treatments and meds available. We have thousands of people who've had the virus already, obtained natural immunity, and have proven antibodies in their blood work to confirm. With much available to the community now, our children should no longer bear the burden of being responsible for someone else's health. People have choices now to take care of their own health. We are no longer living in March and April of 2020 and have come a long way with cures and treatments and shots. This is a good thing. This should be celebrated. And the fear should be less, not perpetuated by constantly telling our students to be safe, to stay safe, or have teachers closing their emails or their assignments or their remind texts with the words, stay safe. In asking my own child's friends about this, I could tell you, they're all sick and tired of hearing teachers tell them to be safe.
Ms. Kelton, thank you.
I'd like to close. I have 20
No,
seconds.
I'm sorry, everyone, there's 3-minute time limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelton. Yep. Thank you. Mrs. Benelli?
Okay, so I first want to apologize for not looking up because if I do, I'm going to start crying. Okay, can I start my 3 minutes? Redo. Okay. I'm asking to please be a voice for our children and let Cuomo know that it's time to unmask our kids. As of yesterday, Suffolk County stated that 0.7 of its population tested positive for COVID. On top of that, research is being released daily on how bad these masks and what they're doing to our kids. So I'm asking that all the parents try to remember the passion that they had during the New York State assessment opt-out movement. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Parents, one by one, waking up to the truth behind the testing companies and the emotional toll it was taking on their children. Well, we have a new group of parents who are awake. Just like we are now able to opt our kids out of the state assessments, we're opting out our kids of wearing a face diaper for 6 hours a day. Our children have suffered enough. Please let them know that the masks need to go. I know that Cuomo has to have the district's plan by July. In big, bold letters, it needs to state that masks should be optional for everyone in the district, regardless of their vaccine status or whatever their choice is. Masks should be optional. Big, bold letters when you send our plan to Cuomo. That's it.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Malamas? Take your time. It won't start till you get here. If you could just use the mic, just for the people
I
at home.
have two children, 8 and 6, in Nokamos, and my 6-year-old thinks that it's a piece of him, a mask is a piece of him. He feels scared without it. He feels that everyone's looking at him when he has it on. He has issues with it, and I don't think that a 6-year-old should be worried about a mask. Anyway, the more important thing is my 8-year-old son in gym class was jump roping with his mask on. He then proceeded to go to the nurse's office, where the nurse called my husband and urged us to bring him to the doctor's office because she heard something wrong in his left lung. He has severe asthma and allergies, and we had just been at the doctor the day before, and my husband took my son to the nurse, and he told her about his day and how he was jump roping with a mask. He lost oxygen, got sent to the nurse's office. She then proceeded to test him twice for COVID, not even looking at the fact that he had a well visit the day before. My husband urged her and talked to her about his allergies, and they had a nice long conversation, and she still urged the test. He agreed to a rapid test, and then she quickly said, we can't let you leave without testing your son, and not only should he get a rapid test, but he should get a PCR test too, because the rapid tests don't give good results. And so therefore, when I came home from work, I was extremely aggravated. I called the nurse's office, found that they didn't see a doctor, they saw the nurse, and she pricked him, she swabbed his nose with 2 COVID tests. He couldn't go to school for 3 days. And no one helped my son with his breathing problems because of COVID. I wasn't treated for asthma, I wasn't given an inhaler, nothing. We were attacked by COVID that day, and he lost 3 more days of education, never mind the year that they lost before. And I'm sick and tired of hearing my older cousins in grade school, hearing that they're getting nosebleeds, migraines, coming home with filthy masks. It's unsanitary, it's dirty, the kids touch their face more, and it's not a protective measure if you saw what Fauci sent out today. Exactly. And so I do not want my son wearing a mask next year. I moved to this town 1 year ago. I found the most perfect house in the most perfect neighborhood, and I'm willing to uproot my children and move because no one will listen to us.
Mrs. DiPietro? Please.
I'm here for the same reason, for the masks. Before we resume classes in the fall of 2021, I just want to all get on board and get on the same page. I'd like to make masks optional for all students and all staff that wishes to do so. I think we all know at this time, 15 months later, that asymptomatic spread is highly unlikely. Labeling our students super spreaders was also absurd and isn't true. The irrational overuse of PPE by some staff is bizarre. And in my profession, we call that hypochondria. Quarantining healthy students that are sitting near students that test positive is silly. My son has missed more school than he's been in school when they were able to go to school. I understand Sachem receives its guidance from New York State, although at this time the guidance is antiquated and for some reason, which I believe is political because it's not consistent across the board, across this nation.
Guys, we're just going to ask that if nobody calls out, Mrs. DiPietro, just finish.
Which I believe is political. New York State is refusing to evolve. Unless there is something of a medical nature that Sachem is privy to, and I am not. I've been a nurse for 22 years, and I have a lot of nurses behind me, but we're afraid to speak because people don't even listen to us anymore. I just want to know if you can vote tonight, if there's any way you guys can vote tonight as a board and as the superintendent to make masks optional without any retribution for any staff or any student. Because I know there are teachers who don't want a mask, but there's a union that really, really intimidates them and bullies them. And we're aware of that. Okay, so I'm asking if you can vote tonight. I don't know if you can or not. I don't know how it works. But if you could, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in for a moment and say that we hear people. We do hear you when you call us and email us and speak to the schools and speak to the board and speak to me, again, via phone call or email. I want you to know that today I spoke with our Commissioner, Betty Rosa, that weeks prior I spoke with Dan Fuller, who works as the Ed Secretary for our governor. Before that, I spoke with our local legislators. I've spoken with Dr. Piggott, who is the Suffolk County Department of Health Commissioner. And we have voiced our concerns around masks, around mandates, around the idea that kids are invited to sit at 3 feet, but we're still putting out kids at 6 feet for quarantine. I today spoke to the commissioner about how we had a young man out for 40 days because of quarantines this year, 4 times quarantine, which is heartbreaking. And the fact that we continue to put healthy kids out. So that is the advocacy that you are getting from this board and myself as we speak to those people who are the decision makers. And I hope that as we move forward, again, these decisions start to change. I hope that for the fall, certainly that we are optional, but we do take our guidance. We are mandated to take our guidance from the state ed department and from our governor. So I'm hoping that things are different, certainly in the fall. We hear you. It is not falling on deaf ears. We are not ignoring people or just sitting here and not doing anything about it. It is certainly a concern to us, and you are being heard, and we are speaking to the people that make those decisions. I hope we are being heard. So I thank you for that.
Dr. Pelletieri, with all due respect, the words that I had prepared, I need to say them now. I appreciate the advocacy, and a lot of times there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people don't see. But I think that when we make it apparent for everybody to see, it holds a little bit more weight. So I just want to take a few minutes to really speak out against something and ask the board to support the children of Sachem. As many of you know, I'm passionate about speaking up for our children. And while I can be emotional in my pleas, I'm never without fact and research, sometimes too much research. Last week, I attended a rally. It was actually quite a peaceful protest. Our local legislators, Anthony Piccirillo and Phil Boyle, attended as well. We spoke about facts. We spoke about mask wearing. We spoke about why it's so important that each and every parent and child have the right to choose. I come to you with fact over fear. And while I never say COVID was a joke, a hoax, or not harmful to many, I can confidently say that the cure is beginning to get worse than the virus, and it's time to stop. I'll read you some facts, some research that I've compiled, and if for no other reason, to start showing people the facts that we truly must start to think about. When speaking about our children wearing masks in school, I'd like to ask for us as a board to have a backbone and stand up to our governor. I feel if Sachem joins the fight with Miller Place, Rocky Point, Comsaquag, Port Jeff, and actually there were 3 more after I wrote this morning, all of whom have written letters from their board and superintendents stating that they feel all parents, students, and employees should have the freedom of choice where mask wearing and vaccination are concerned. I'm on forums. I speak to parents from all over New York State. These aren't just parents that are fed up with masks. They aren't being political. They have a genuine concern, and mask exemptions aren't always the answer. They don't work. I've witnessed a child stuck in the middle of 2 doctors with differing opinions. This should never be science. This should never be. Science and facts, not opinions and politics, should be what we're driving force. We're failing our children right now. Our job here is to protect the kids and staff, yes, but part of protecting them is wanting what's best for each child. In the past week alone, I've heard of Sachem students getting chronic bloody noses due to mask wearing, getting facial funguses requiring medical treatment in excess of $1,000. I've spoken to parents of students in other districts whose children have passed out due to the masks in the heat. We have to remember, our children have not worn the masks in such heat and humidity before for a full day of school. I know of children with special needs who get anxiety from wearing masks. or children who wear glasses, who will be asked to sit through their finals and their regents while wearing a mask in the heat and humidity and attempting to have their glasses not fog. You probably see me here at the meetings wearing my mask below my nose because my glasses are constantly fogging. And yes, I've tried every anti-fog solution known to man. I have 28 days left here serving on this board. I've made mistakes and I've been anything but quiet while I'm here, but I always put the kids first. I'm not saying ban masks from school. I'm saying it must be a choice. There must be that freedom. What is perfect for one family can be tragic for another. If masks work so well, then anyone wearing one should feel confident in the choice that they have made for themselves. We just had a 4-day holiday weekend with 0 reported cases, 0 from staff and students. We are well on our way to herd immunity, and we don't know what can come back and bite us. The following is a direct quote from Dr. Marguerite Greets-Britzen. She's an MD and a PhD who's a consultant neurologist and neurophysiologist, I can't even say what she is, with a PhD in pharmacology, with special interests in neurotoxicology and environmental medicine, and she's got a million other things that she's an expert at. This is what she has to say about masks. This is a direct quote about masks and people's brains. The rebirthing of our exhaled air without a doubt creates oxygen deficiency and a flooding of carbon dioxide. We know that the human brain is very sensitive to oxygen deprivation. There are nerve cells, for example, in the hippocampus that can't be longer than 3 minutes without oxygen. They cannot survive. The acute warning signs are headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, issues in concentration, slowing down of reaction time, reactions of cognitive system. However, when you have chronic oxygen deprivation, all of these symptoms disappear because you get used to it, but your efficiency will remain impaired, and the undersupply of oxygen in your brain continues to progress. We know that neurodegenerative diseases take years, if not decades, to develop. If today you forgot your phone number, the breakdown in your brain would have already started 20 to 30 years ago. While you're thinking that you haven't gotten used to wearing your mask and rebreathing your own exhaled air, the degenerative process in your brain are already amplified as your oxygen deprivation continues. The second problem is that the nerve cells in your brain are unable to divide themselves normally. The lost nerve cells will no longer be regenerated. What is gone is gone. I do not wear a mask. I need my brain to think. I want to have a clear head when I deal with my patients and not be in a carbon dioxide-induced anesthesia. There is no unfounded medical exemption from face masks because oxygen deprivation is dangerous for every single brain. It must be the free decision of every human being whether they want to wear a mask that is absolutely ineffective to protect themselves from a virus. For children and adolescents, masks are an absolute no-no. Children and adolescents have an extremely active and adaptive immune system, and they need a constant interaction with the microbiome of the earth. Their brain is also incredibly active as it has so much to learn. The child's brain or the youth's brain is thirsting for oxygen. The more metabolically active the organ is, the more oxygen it requires. In children and adolescents, every organ is metabolically active. To deprive a child or adolescent's brain from oxygen or to restrict it in any way is not only dangerous to their health, it is absolutely criminal. Oxygen deficiency inhibits the development of the brain, and the damage that has taken place as a result cannot be reversed. The child needs the brain to learn, and the brain needs oxygen to function. This is her direct quote, and I can tell you honestly, my children have already suffered many of these things. In closing, I've consulted physicians. I've read what other people have put out there, and I've attempted to put all politics aside. I have brought this here to the board to make a motion that we write a firm letter to the Governor Cuomo and Howard Zucker, stating that Sachem is against the mandating of mask wearing and the vaccine. Where there is risk, there must be choice. The governor does not get to make this choice for the children of Sachem. For where will he be in a few years if any of these children start developing these adverse effects to their brains and their organs for being masked for so long? The vaccine, again, does not belong being pushed in any way on our children. We don't have 5 years of research. We don't know what, if anything, this vaccine can do to people in the future. In the early 2000s, an anthrax vaccine was given to our military. Years later, 5 years later, many started to experience adverse events like slurred speech, brain damage, neurological problems, tremors, memory lapse, seizure, weight loss, renal failure, and other conditions with their musculoskeletal, cardiovascular, skin, digestive, respiratory systems. How can we forgive ourselves if 5 years from now, the children of Sachem all start to develop any negative effects from things that we've mandated or we failed to stand up against mandates? We each have an obligation to these children and their freedom of choice. Just because the governor says so does not make it right, and certainly does not mean we, the people, should not question it. Our children are relying on us to take a stand and make this happen for them. If a student or staff member want to wear a mask all day, every day for the rest of eternity, I fully support that choice. But I also demand that we stand up for the students and the staff who do not wish to wear a mask. The freedom of choice needs to be in the hands of each individual. I've shown factual information that proves that there is risk, and where there is risk, there must be choice. For when you remove that choice, you then become liable for the risk. If you don't want to look back sometime from now, knowing we failed an entire generation of students, these children are our future. We must fight for them. I know we have mandates against us. It doesn't mean we have to sit here and take what the governor is dishing out.
Does anyone have an issue writing a letter about making masks mandatory, optional for September, or as soon as possible? But by the time we send the letter, it's probably going to be, school's going to be over, so.
Well, I'd like the letter immediately because, as I said, children are going to be sitting through heat and humidity that they have never endured before, trying to take the most important tests of their lives. Some children will absolutely—
John, let me ask you a question, just so that there's not bad information, and I want you to give an honest answer. Out of all of our classrooms, how many of them have air conditioners? And I'm not saying, I'm all against the masks, but before we say every single one of them are hot and humid, I want the public to know how many of the classrooms have air conditioners.
Yeah, about 2 years ago, we entered into an initiative due to the fact that each year we used to have to move dozens, if not hundreds of air conditioners for children's 504 and IEP needs from the room that they were in last year to the room they're going to be in next year. Dr. Graham had me move forward with placing air conditioners in every single classroom in the district. I think to date, every conventional classroom now has air conditioning available to those classes. The only spaces that might still be absent of AC might be larger spaces like tech rooms and things like that, but your conventional classrooms, I think we're at 100% now.
Thanks.
So these children are not sitting in heat and humidity, because I can tell you personally, my children have come home telling me their classrooms are hot.
Yeah, I don't control turning them on for the classes or the teachers. I mean, certainly they would work with their principals. But we've only had a few days so far that have been hot. The last few weeks have actually been rather cool. But the ACs are in every room.
And every room that they're going to be taking these mandatory tests, these finals, these regions, well, the regions
Not
isn't mandatory,
necessarily. If it's in a large space like a gymnasium or a cafeteria, that would not be air conditioned.
Rob?
So, I teach in a career and technical school, teach culinary arts. And when we get those days that are 80, 85, 90 degrees in a hot kitchen, with all of the equipment going, it could exceed 92, 93, 94 degrees. It is a problem. There's no question about it. I am one of those teachers that's very liberal. If a kid lowers their mask, I'm not going to reprimand him to put it back up because I know the conditions are bad. Being in a mask for 7 hours a day makes it very, very difficult. It's very difficult to teach. It's very difficult to lecture. And at my age, it's very difficult to even function. So I understand where Meredith is coming from. She has a motion on the floor to put together a very strong letter to the governor. I have no problem. Any strong letter we could send him on any issue, I have no problem with doing. We've sent them in years past. I think that, for our kids and being in the trenches and seeing some of the things that they have to endure in the classroom, they've had to endure more in the last 14 months or 15 months than I've ever seen any kid in 29 years that I've been teaching endure. So if Meredith's making a motion, I have no problem. I will second that motion. I'd like to get that letter out ASAP so that we could at least start the paving the road for September, if not sooner.
All in favor? Chris, you want
Will the motion go first then? I was just going to offer that I would assist with that effort, and Meredith, John and I were scheduled to be in court tomorrow morning. That matter got adjourned as of about 4:30 this afternoon, so I've got some time in the morning if you want to get together and talk about constructing something that we could then disseminate to the entire board just to preview and give us a thumbs up.
Is there a letter with the model from another district?
There's plenty of them out there. I can furnish you guys with all.
what was the one that was sent today from Lindenhurst? Where was it?
Today was Plain Edge, and there's been Comsquag, Miller Place.
Yeah, if it goes faster, if we have to just hit copy and paste and just type in
No,
Sachem, then I'm fine with that too.
We can add,
We can
add
second
certainly
the-
some of our own sentiments. And Mr. Clayton, you'll be able to effort that, I believe, tomorrow morning, you were saying.
I'll assist with that tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor? Good. Yeah. On the bottom of page 2 is number 3, business items, consent agenda A through I. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Matthew, seconded by Rob. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Page 6, number 4, personnel, teachers, consent agenda A through X. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Laura, seconded by Rob. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Mrs. Capeland?
I'm abstaining from that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
The board just approved 35 teachers and 3 teacher assistants, 38 instructional employees for tenure. Earlier this evening, we recognized the achievements of students who were athletes and academic scholars. We'd like to acknowledge the hard work and efforts that our teachers and our teacher assistants have earned from their work over the last number of years, especially this year. It was a tough year for all of our students. Everyone leaned in. You did an absolutely wonderful job. We want to recognize you. Those folks who are with us today in person with family, friends, or their principal, and those folks who are out there reviewing through our webcast. So congratulations to all of you. If you are here this evening in person, could we just ask you to stand so we can recognize and give you some kudos? Congratulations. We look forward to your continued success and congrats.
Congratulations.
In the middle of page 17, number 5 is personnel support staff, consent agenda A through M. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Rob, seconded by Matthew. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Page 21, number 6, personnel administrators, consent agenda A through F. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Laura, seconded by Rob. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Mrs. Capeland?
Kristen, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in on this one. Danielle DiLorenzo has been our principal at Linwood School for the past many years. She started in Sachem in 2006, loves the Sachem community, been a big part of the Sachem family. She joined our administrative team back in 2008. We thank her for her strength in curriculum and literacy. She's been a great collaborator in terms of the district's equity initiatives, technology, teaching, and learning. She is moving on to another district to become an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and we wish her well.
Wanted to continue with those congratulations. This evening, we also had someone else who joined us in 2006, Veronica DeChico. On tonight's agenda, we had
Yes.
Yes. On tonight's agenda, we had retirement, which is coming up, and we want to acknowledge her presence. She's also a Covey Leader in Me school, and all the great things that she's done with the students and staff.
On the top of page 23, number 7 is contracts, consent agenda A through Y. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Matthew, seconded by Meredith. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. On the bottom of page 29, number 8 is donations. There are 3 donations. The first one is a donation from the Grundy Avenue Elementary School PTA. It is in the amount of $9,491. Number B is a donation from the Seneca PTA in the amount of $493. And number C is a donation from Dynamic Lacrosse. They donated 40 Desi Strong lacrosse uniforms for the Sachem East boys lacrosse team. Approximate value is $3,000. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Matthew, seconded by Sarah. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you guys very much. Number 9 is a budget transfer in the amount of $3,377,598. John, do you want to just talk about, excuse me, can I have a motion? Motion by Rob, second by Meredith. John?
Sure, and this is something I've shared with the board in memo, but obviously a large amount of money, it'd be a good idea to talk through it a bit. The primary reason, 2.4 million of it, so the vast majority of it, is to go to the ERS fund. When the district had fallen into difficult times many years ago, the state had come out with a program that allowed the district to defer annual payments for the employees' retirement system. They did the same for the teachers' retirement system. And several years into those 2 programs, the state made a decision that they realized that obviously districts were having a snowballing effect of the amount of money that they owed to the state. So they allowed districts the opportunity to buy their way out of the TRS program. We did that at the time when it was first made available to them. As I explained to you in a recent memo, this opportunity has now come to us also for ERS. So as I recommended, it'd be a good time to pull us out of that because yes, we are making payments each year, but we're not making payments in the full amount that's owed to the system. And then we're also making accrual payments of about $900,000 a year, but still never paying off the outstanding debt. So this one-time transfer will catch us up on all outstanding payments, and then we'll just continue in a pay-as-you-go model. The other large item, about $600,000 or so, is just the separation payments for the large number of retirees we have this year. And the bulk of those monies, as I discussed at the board, are getting moved from salary codes where we had available funds. And then there were some miscellaneous smaller transfers, one for $100,000 for some software for the new one-to-one laptop initiative. Some monies that each of the buildings are moving around just so that they can purchase supplies and materials in preparation for next year and things of that nature. Were there any other questions from the board? Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. On the bottom of page 30, number 10, Committee on Special Education, consent agenda A through B. Can I please have a motion? Sorry, I keep hitting my paper on it. Motion by Matthew, second by Meredith. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 11 is monthly reports. Has anybody met recently? Please, Laura.
So we had a meeting 2 Mondays ago of the audit committee. And that's what we accepted on tonight's agenda. And the auditors did the internal and external and found no corrective action plans. And I've been on the audit committee over 8 years. So I think this was one of the first times where everything was perfect. And John, if you just want to elaborate a little bit, first I want to say thank you so much, because the auditors were so impressed in the time of COVID and everything going on, how perfect both audits went. Thank you, John.
Thank you, that's very kind. Certainly, not a singular event. It's a tremendous team behind the scenes that makes all this happen, each time. And obviously, we're audited several times a year. The external auditors kicked off the year-end annual audit process. So they'll be in the district starting in July and August to close out the books with us as we prepare our financial statements and send our reports up to the state. The internal orders of the report you're speaking of that the board accepted earlier this evening, they did a very comprehensive review of the special education department. The last report on that department was done back in 2017. And they did find quite a number of citations of areas that needed improvement. So this was an opportunity for them to come back, and the primary reason that drove them to that particular department this year, as we do know that we have had 3 different directors over the last 18 months. So they wanted to see how the protocols that we put in place as part of the corrective action plan back in 2017 followed through as we transitioned through 3 different directors. And everything worked according to plan. Everyone in each department was doing things as we had written in the formalized instruction, and he found no need for corrective action. All of his testing came back positive, and he was very complimentary to all the people that he spoke with and interviewed.
Thank you very much, John. Anyone else? Sure.
So I was also on the audit committee, and not nearly as long as Laura, about a quarter of the time that she's put in. But yes, that was quite impressive. It was a great meeting. It actually went pretty quick because we did so well. We didn't have too much to talk about. But as far as the committees go, I would like to tell everybody who's watching or listening that you really should get involved with these committees. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe everyone's tenure on the committees expires on June 30th of each year, and that they have to put in a new application. The applications are online, and you can reach out to anybody. But I really do, I've served on the BAC, I've served on the curriculum council. It really is pretty amazing how many things go into running a school district. And if you're not on any of these committees, there's a lot that you'd never understand, and it's a really nice way to start understanding them. So the applications should be filed soon, because I guess you guys will approve people the first week of July.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please, Bill. Sorry, I didn't see you down there. I looked this way.
That's fine. I know I was hiding out down here because I couldn't hear anything from up there. I'm sorry. In a few weeks, I'll be off the board, and this will all be over. And I'm a little frustrated by the things that the people came here tonight to say about the masks. Get a lot of feedback here. Sorry about that. I can try it. Turn that one off. Yep. And I know the people who came here tonight are very frustrated by the board and what they see as inaction, especially regarding the masks. I know what they came here tonight for was that they wanted us to say, you don't have to wear masks anymore if you don't want to. And I think I want to try to give them what it is that they want. Throughout this year, I've been frustrated. Everybody who follows these board meetings knows that I've been one of the people who, from the very beginning, last spring, wanted our children back in school. And to quote myself, I believe, said we should defy the governor's orders. I thought they were that wrong. I still do. I stand by that. I don't feel as though we achieved anything largely. I know there's no way we can test for that. We'll never know the truth of what we achieved by doing what we did, but we'll never really know. But I don't believe personally we achieved much. And here we are now at the end of the school year with a few days left, talking about next year potentially having kids masked up, potentially having remote sessions. So here's what I want to do in the last few days that I have here on the board. I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we do as many businesses have done throughout this state and throughout the country. My motion is that this board go on record as saying we will not enforce the mask mandate. There may be a mask mandate, but we will not enforce it. If students who come to school decide they do not want to wear masks, that's up to them. Students who want to wear masks can wear masks. Students who want to stay home because they feel nervous, I guess they'll have to stay home for the last few days because there's not much going on anyway. In fact, little secret out of the bag for all of you, wasn't much going on all across this country in public education this whole year and a half roughly. So that's where we are, that's what we've lost. That's my motion. Hopefully somebody will second it, and then we can be on record and the community will at least get a vote, which is what I think they wanted.
I second it.
You have a question, please?
I hear that motion in second, and I'm going to speak out of turn, I think, but I think everybody on this board wants these masks to go away.
Yeah.
I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. But I'm not that kind of pioneer that's going to take on the New York State government, not knowing what the consequences are if this board takes such a motion not to enforce the governor's mandate. So I have to throw the question back to the superintendent and council to tell me, convince me that my vote, and I'd love to vote for it. I'd love to support this. Tell me that my vote won't have any negative consequences, and I'll be glad to vote for it.
Mr. Clayton?
So, yeah, I'll weigh in on that.
Chris, can you take your mask off to talk? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. And, I guess I'd preface what I'm saying by, informing you that my legal advice doesn't necessarily reflect my personal opinions, which very much are aligned with those that have been expressed by the people on the Board of Education. Certainly in my life, my family has been fully vaccinated, and I'd much greatly prefer to exist without this piece of cloth across my face. So, but I have an obligation to you as your counsel to advise you as to what the law is. And first and foremost, with all respect to everybody's opinion about that, which I, again, have said I don't necessarily disagree with, each board member takes an oath first and foremost when you're sworn in to uphold the law. And the mandates that are imposed upon you by either the legislature, the governor, the executive orders, the powers that have been imbued with the Department of Health, the CDC, federal, state, local, whatever it may be throughout this process, have the force of law. And so it's not simply, as we have discussed on many occasions where we've talked about a political issue that we have concern with, where we think that ill-informed politicians who are trying to make a platform on education and impose upon us their political will that has nothing to do with the well-being of children. And we've expressed our discontent to them by writing letters, by speaking out publicly, by going to lobbying days up in Albany when we were allowed to do such a thing to express our displeasure. We've, as Dr. Pelletieri has, spoken about earlier in his superintendent's report, been a constant voice and a constant irritant to all of the state, local, and federal health officials and politicians to try and impress upon them the seemingly, the negative impacts of their seemingly arbitrary decisions, and how the population in our buildings has been managed, we think, despite the terrible impact, as Dr. Pelletieri talked about, of people getting kicked out of school because of quarantine and so forth. We've managed to maintain the lower infection rates than any of our surrounding areas, right? In schools, they seem to be the safest places. But at the end of the day, to Mr. Kiernan's point, I cannot advise you that such an action would be without consequence. I would be remiss if I didn't warn you in the first instance that you all took an oath. And whether we like it or not, oaths matter. Your word matters. When you raise your right hand and say, I shall uphold the law and I shall uphold the Constitution of the United States, I don't think there's a single person on this board, I know you all personally, you're people of integrity, you're people of great caring, and I know, each and every one of you maybe have differences of opinion as to how it should be done, but each and every one of you cares first and foremost about the well-being of our children. There's not a minute in the 20 years that I've been working in this district that I've doubted that about anybody that I've worked with on this board. But the reality is that it's not for you in your positions a mere act of civil disobedience. You know, a willful violation of law constitutes a violation of your oath as a board member. Now, there are many who would say, I'm willing to do that, damn the consequences, and I shall. And not saying this in any way pejoratively, but, you know, Mr. Kiernan asked a pointed question. I'm giving you the answer from my perspective as your legal counsel. That doesn't prohibit you from saying, look, to the extent that the rules and regulations and mandates that we operate under provide, by way of example, for liberal mask breaks. I mean, every child who needs a mask break, anybody, I've heard some heartbreaking stories from some of the parents who spoke here tonight, and certainly Ms. Volpe and everybody on the board has shared their personal anecdotes about you know, the negative impacts of these things. And I know from talking to Dr. Pelletieri that, you know, principals and everybody have been expressly notified that if a child is, you know, feeling a negative impact, we're going to make an accommodation for that child, you know, to the extent that we can permissibly allow them to take their masks off, you know, outdoors, separated or whatever, we're going to do it. And I guess the distinction, you know, to Mr. Coggin's point is that, you know, with the few days that we have left is, you know, the combination of risk, reward, benefit, likelihood of success in getting any kind of meaningful change by what you do. I don't know, but I could never, as your counsel you to violate your oath. And certainly, while I would say to you that there have been many people here, and I sit in many, many board meetings. I represent other school districts, so I sit in these meetings and I've heard the frustrations of other members of other communities saying, you know, look, I called the Department of Health and the Department of Health says, you know, they're not going to enforce X, Y, and Z. Well, the reality is the Department of Health doesn't have any jackbooted stormtroopers who are going to come down, you know, in white masks like some science fiction movie, you know, like ED at the end, and stop you from, you know, impose their will. But they can certainly leverage their authority to bring to bear. And could the governor? You know, it's weird to say it out loud because you wonder about, but he can be is historically known to be a little vindictive at times. You know, could somebody who feels like they're being defied start to take it out on you and your state aid and say that, you know, there's some kind of right to withhold as a result of your noncompliance, which is willful and stated publicly in a recorded meeting. So you know, as much as I respect the sentiment behind Mr. Coggin's motion for sure, I can't say to you as your legal counsel that I could advise undertaking your opposition to these mandates and the decisions of the governor to seemingly pick winners and losers, you know, as to who gets to do what in almost arbitrary ways. While I appreciate your frustration and will certainly, as I have always, support you in your efforts to express that displeasure in appropriate ways to the people in power and speak truth to power, as Meredith has, as she talks about the science behind her concerns, I nonetheless couldn't advise you that it would be an appropriate expression of your frustration to say that we're going to willfully violate our oaths as board members. I think there are different and more effective ways for you, frankly, to express that concern. And I don't think, as Mr. Kiernan has pointed out, and knowing each of you and having had these conversations with you, there's a person at this dais who isn't frustrated, exhausted, and frankly, feeling as though we have been unfairly treated in the way that these things are imposed upon us. But we've also had many of us who have lost loved ones, people who have suffered the consequences of this disease personally. And we have to balance also the fact that we have a community of people, parents, students, and learners who, you know, may feel differently, and we've got to balance that series of concerns and represent that constituency as well. There is no perfect balance. There is no perfect solution. There is no thing. Those political things are your choices to do. But, you know, to answer Mr. Kiernan's question as directly as I can, as I have before, if you're asking me if I, as your legal counsel, can advise you to take a public motion that we're going to willfully violate our oaths, that we're going to willfully violate the law, I would not advise that.
Mr. Scava?
This question, I guess, is for Chris Pelteri and Chris Clayton. When the guidance came out, when the directive, let's call it that, directive came out from New York State as to, allowing students who have predetermined conditions such as asthma, the ability to, that they can't tolerate a mask, the ability to wear one. Is that still in existence and are we
Yeah,
following?
and we have always, I think throughout, even in the most dire circumstances, been in a position where if an accommodation is required, we would have to figure out a way to do that, including, the concept of mask breaks and things like that. What has become complicated is, as you all know, the science evolves, the discussions around what is a permissible way to proceed more liberally and freely, frankly, gets discussed at the national level and by all different sides. And, it feels as though it takes the New York State Department of Health 2 to 3 weeks every time to catch up to what the CDC might come out with as a potential, permissible next step. And then also what is frustrating is that, Newsday and the governor and others will make very splashy headlines about the fact that the COVID restrictions are being released or relieved. And yet there will be this little asterisk that says, except in schools, hospitals, nursing homes, and they have the list of, it's almost like at the end of one of those ridiculous ads for pharmaceuticals where they talk about, this thing that can cure your baldness can also cause your arms to drop off, your heart to stop, your vision to blur, and it's this list of ludicrous side effects. And so, what's difficult, when you try to express to the public that, good God, we support you, we believe you, we're with you, our kids are feeling the same stresses, are feeling the same, ill effects of all of this, as Meredith has talked about our own children. I don't want to talk about anybody else's kids, but that's a public statement you made. So you shared a personal anecdote about that. And yet, try to express to people that it's not our will to perpetuate something that's not necessary. And yet, when you look in the fine print of most of the guidance, it always has different rules for schools and other entities.
And part of the problem is that when you look at the guidelines from day one, okay, last summer, they're so ambiguous in how they're written, okay, and it could be interpreted many different ways. Like I interpreted things very differently than Mr. Clayton did, because he's looking at it from a legal standpoint. I'm looking at it as regular taxpayer and looking at it as a board member. But it's very frustrating. I mean, look, with Mr. Cannon, I agree. I mean, we can't just go out and willfully violate the law. As there are consequences for that. I know in Comac that there was very strong letter sent to them that they're going to send inspectors to make sure that they're following guidelines. Now, I don't know if that ever happened, if the state ever did do something like that, but I would be more in favor of more frequent breaks, okay? If we interpret it, the way it is, it clearly says in the guidelines that we're able to provide our students with, mask breaks. It doesn't say that we can only give them one mask break, 5-minute mask break over a 40-minute period. We can give them a mask break every 5 minutes if we wanted, and I would be more in favor of doing something like that, so that we're within our legal right to be able to do something like that. Yes, I'd be more in favor of doing something like that than willfully violating the law, because there are consequences. We already changed our policy outside. If kids are more than 6 feet apart, we're asking that their masks be removed. I would say that any student that has a condition such as asthma or a respiratory issue, that we give them the right to be able to remove it, anytime they feel that they need to remove it. Providing
That's perfectly reasonable, right? If somebody requires a mask break, requires those things, that they be given liberally, that they be given appropriately.
Yeah.
And I think obviously we've got to trust that, the individuals who, so dearly care for our children, our teachers, our aides, our principals, our administrators. There's not a person, again, that I've met who wants to see a child suffer. And certainly, maybe there is some communication that we can convey that says, look, some of the restrictions have been lifted, and there are at least, don't be afraid to exercise the rights that you do have to be liberal about mask breaks for kids when they need them. There's, I think, a reasonable interpretation of the guidance that gives you that discretion. certainly when a child's asking for it. But, again, each of those things can be on a catch-as-catch-can basis that caring adults who are in loco parentis for our children day in and day out, and whom we entrust with the welfare of our kids all the time, that hopefully they're always going to be making the right choice for kids. Is it going to be perfect every time? Is it going to be to everybody's satisfaction individually every single time? Of course not. But these people have been doing their damnedest for an entire, 18-month period here to do everything they can in the best to balance the health and safety concerns of the kids with the needs for them to have some sense of normalcy in their lives. Nobody, myself included, is happy. I have children in school, with how it ultimately rolled out, but you have to balance that against, the challenges we were facing as a public health crisis. So,
So Dr. Pellier, we have the ability to do that, to really advocate to our staff, to really encourage them to give more frequent mask breaks.
We have the ability to do that. We have done that. I can double down on that and reiterate that again with our administrators and our teachers. And I'll say publicly that again, I'd like to see math breaks at least every period, even more often if necessary. Math breaks for students outside or in PE when they are separated. And certainly, as I stated in letter to the staff and to the community, any single child at any single moment that asks for a mask break should be granted one as long as it's safe to do so.
It's funny when I'm very liberal in my class to be able to lower the mask. They do sit 6 feet apart in my classroom, and I'll say to them, look, if you guys want to take a mask break, let's do it right now. Lower your masks. And it's funny, 20 kids will turn around and look at each other, and about 40% of them will drop their masks. 60% will leave it on. And it's mind-boggling. I don't understand it. I'm giving them the ability, other than saying, lower your mask. I want you to lower it.
Yeah, I don't want to direct students to do that. There are certainly families that maybe not here tonight, but have advocated to me that option is fine, but don't direct my child to do that, because I've had that conversation with them, and I, again, appreciate that aspect of it as well.
Meredith?
Chris, I'm obviously not an attorney and I'm really not a scholar, but I've asked you this point blank, and I've actually called Governor Cuomo's office almost every day and asked them for it as well. Nobody can produce this law to me. You keep using the word law. Nobody can produce the actual law that our legislators make. I mean, again, I'm no scholar, but his executive powers were kind of taken away, and it's in the guidance, it's in guidelines, but I don't see an actual law on the books that if I raise my hand right now to second Bill's motion, where I would be breaking my oath, because I don't see an actual law. If somebody can produce that law to me stating that children are mandated to wear their masks in school, then yes, I would knowingly be breaking the law, but I can't find the law. The governor's office couldn't even produce it for me. They keep referring me back to guidance.
I think what they would typically point to is that the governor, by his executive orders, authorized the public health authorities to promulgate operational guidelines, that, as you know, are holistic. They didn't just apply to school districts. They were public health guidelines for how we were dealing with nursing homes, hospitals.
Mr. Clayton, let me just interrupt you for 1 second. We're not ignoring you, but the public portion is over. I apologize. If you guys want, we can answer any questions after, or we can email them and we can get you answers. I just don't want you to hold your hand up for all night. I see you. Go ahead.
So I think certainly, as you can, and there used to be a time, Meredith, where I could have told you exactly where we were in executive order number and sequence and so forth. Hadn't necessarily planned on having this conversation, otherwise I would have tried to had some of the, the particular sequence available for you with some of the dates. But I think most recently there was another 30-day extension of the kind of overarching authority. And what the governor did, after obviously the CDC gave guidance, was to empower both at the state level, the Department of Health, and then pushing down to the local departments of health, to empower them to promulgate the guidelines by which we must operate. So I would say to you that certainly at a minimum, those things have the force of law. And I think Dr. Pelletieri and or Rob in their comments made mention of another school district. I won't call it out by name, but there was that period where the CDC came out with some guidance that spoke to the proposition that mask obligations may be diminished, and how that exactly was going to get pushed down was left again to the, the states and their Department of Health, and they push it down to the local departments of health. And there was a period of time where I think there was an interpretation of what the CDC had written that would have given us some of the more liberal relief that we might seek and all believe is appropriate. Then, as is typical, 2 weeks later, the State Department of Health and local departments of health came out with their guidance, and some districts that I read about, came out with some ideas about how they were or were not going to operate, published some of those things, and then we received that letter from Dr. Piggott that Dr. Pelletieri alluded to, where they gave a very explicit and unequivocal statement that those prior guidance and obligations still applied to school districts. So at a minimum, I would talk to you, Meredith, about that as an area where, as your counsel, and look, I much favor giving my legal advice in executive session where I'm privileged to talk to you, my client, in a privileged way. But I think for the benefit of the public, and the board wants to explain why we might not, immediately leap into the fray, and maybe not be as liberally empowered to do that as somebody who's not taken the oath to sit here. And again, I'm not suggesting that that means that our board is comprised of, timid people who are afraid to lead. I think quite the contrary. You guys throw your bodies and your personal reputations into the fray all the time. I've sat here and listened to you get screamed and yelled at and all that sort of stuff. You put a lot at stake here to do that. So I don't think it could be fairly, nobody could fairly characterize you as timid or having a failure of leadership. But also you make decisions not just for yourself and not just for your personal opinions, but for the entirety of the school population, some of whom may have different opinions in the first instance. And second, none of us know the exact potential consequences that could come down for a finding of a violation. And that consequence doesn't necessarily just come down to you, where they say, hey, Kiernan, and I don't mean to call you out, Jim, but you violated your oath by doing this thing. You made a public statement that you're going to willfully direct the violation of an order. But it could potentially have, and I don't mean to create boogeymen and scare people, but you don't know whether somebody turns around and says the district's going to receive some kind of punishment for noncompliance. And that's then not just an act of civil disobedience for you personally, it's potentially something that could impact the district. So those are areas where my concern lies. And I know that there are probably people in the audience or somebody watching this feed who would say, Clayton, you're all washed up. You don't know what you're talking about. And it's the lawyer that's keeping the district from doing these things. I assure you that it's not, based on any personal leanings, but those are areas of concern that I have for the board, for the well-being of the district that you are the stewards of. And further advice about that is the sort of thing that I'd prefer to give in executive session, but I know you all want the public to understand clearly that you don't disagree with many of the sentiments that are here, but we're constrained in ways that perhaps folks in the general public are not, in the manner in which we could express our discontent.
Anyone else? Please, Laura, sorry.
So Chris, we do know some districts who did come out and reversed, they said no masks and they reversed it. And I know, my nephew goes to Chaminade and my niece goes to St. Mary's in Manhasset, and they're still required to wear the mask all the time. And I would think that Catholic schools or private schools would not have to follow what I consider guidance, not a law. Like I'm agreeing with Meredith, again, I just feel like it's guidance to guide us. And if we choose to modify that guidance, why isn't that in our right to do so?
Really, just for the reasons that I expressed beforehand. And again, look, at some point, I don't think you get punished for a mistaken interpretation or, an interpretation of an obligation that differs from what, a public health commissioner may have envisioned when they wrote guidance, which is always, kind of crappy and, and sort of open to potentially multiple interpretations, but an affirmative public statement that we are going to, because let there be no mistake. The local health commissioner, as recently as within the last 2 weeks, wrote that letter to districts that had said we're going to have a no mask directive. and said, thou shalt not do that under potential penalty of us, as Rob alluded to, potentially coming in and beginning to enforce. And, where that enforcement leads, again, the Department of Health is not a police agency. They don't have cops who are coming down in riot gear to enforce their directives. And I think that's probably what a lot of the folks who say that I called the Department of Health and asked them, what are you going to do about it, tough guy? They said, well, we don't have the ability to go down there and, and enforce that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that there isn't an enforcement mechanism by referral to the, some other authority. And again, the word guidance gets used as, sort of like, well, this is just a suggestion, or it's just a hint of a thing that we might have to do. I think that you can largely look at the lineage of the guidance coming from the executive order, from the CDC, from the State Department of Health down to the local departments of health. And that guidance is meant to be, here's a guidance document. We talk about that all the time. Here's how but that means this is how you interpret your legal obligations. The EEOC gives us guidance documents all the time. Government entities give us guidance documents. And that guidance document is meant to say, in case you're wondering what you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to do. And if you don't, whatever enforcement authority we have is the sort of thing that, would potentially come your way. So I don't agree with those who would say that the guidance documents are something that we are within our rights to just simply disregard.
Anyone else? All right, there's a motion and a second. We'll just do a roll call just so no one gets put, but Jim? No. Matthew? Sarah? Laura? Meredith?
Hell yeah.
Bill? Rob?
I would love to support it. I can't at this time.
Yeah. First, and this is all due respect to Bill and both Meredith, I think it's wrong that you guys put us in this spot tonight to have to say no. You're outgoing board members, and if the penalty is financial, what are you willing to cut for $1 million or $2 million? What if the penalty is a frozen certification for one of our administrators? You have now put Sachem in a position to be in trouble, either financially or all of a sudden our top tier leadership has just been taken out and the state's going to come in and maybe they take over. Maybe we can turn into Hempstead. I'm all for taking the masks off. I've been to rallies. I've been all over social media. I'm in part of every page. I'm all for it. But we're the second largest school district in the state. They're watching us. We're not going to sneak up on anybody. I just want to make sure that there's a clear directive. There can't be any misconception. Staff will get a clear directive again that we want more mask breaks. Just like they got the one outside, it wasn't clear. We did it again, and it was clear. Give them mask breaks when they ask, give them more mask breaks, and just do it that way. But I can't, in good faith, put Sachem in that light. Like Comac got dragged through the mud the other day. They said that they were going to do something, and then they all had to backpedal. And I just think it's wrong to even do this, but we're going to vote, and it's a no, and the noes have it. So please make sure that the staff is clear. Don't let them interpret it by themselves. There can't be any gray area for them. We'll just be clear about that, please. Number 12 is public comment. If you guys wish to fill out another card, you can come up. Or you could just come up, since you've already filled it out. Please, Mrs. Benelli. Just speak into the mic, just for the people at home on YouTube, please. You may have to push the button.
Okay, so I don't know if this will make anybody feel any better about their decision tonight, but every day since March 13th of last year, I listened to Cuomo every single day. So this was him the other day, probably about 2 weeks ago. You know, his live things that he does every day when he goes on and he's somewhere else talking about something else. So this is him.
All people to be dropping them. See, I think this is interesting. I don't think it has anything to do with, I did COVID briefings every day for like ever. It wasn't the rules. Government can't tell you to wear a mask. I can't. I can say it. Wear a mask. You say no. And then what is government going to do? It's not that they adhered to the rule because it was a rule. It was because I gave them the rationale and the explanation that said it's smart for you to wear a mask. That was more powerful than the rules, you know?
I could keep going if you want, or if you'd like me to replay that. I don't know. So I'll let you interpret that the way you want.
So Alex, when
Thank
you
you.
call me out and tell me that I put the district in danger, and how dare I, that's how dare I, because the horse's mouth himself said it. He said
Meredith,
he cannot
respectfully, just
enforce
wait.
this.
Just stop for
So,
just 1 second.
No, so to call me and
It's
Bill
not-
out
it's
and
not
say because we're
fair.
outgoing board members,
It's not
if I
fair
had the
what you're
extra 3
doing.
years,
It's
I would
not
still
fair
make the
what you're
same
doing.
exact motion.
You're bloviating. Talk about theater. You're like Fauci right now. Let's just get on the side of the people that don't want masks. Nobody that wants masks. Take them off. Nobody wants it, Meredith.
But you're
if
calling
the
me and
state
Bill out
comes
and
in-
saying that it's because we're outgoing board members, has nothing to do with it. I would
Yes, it
stand
does.
here and say the same exact
Yes, it
thing
does.
that I've said.
Our legal counsel just said that they could do something.
And I've asked our legal counsel to produce an actual law, and I've
Well,
asked
you
the
just
governor's office, and the
blindsided him in
governor's
public
office can't
session. You
produce a
didn't message
law.
him. He's not prepared for it,
Our
respectfully.
governor's office
You
cannot
haven't
produce a
messaged
law.
anybody about
And the
anything that you
governor
wanted to do.
himself has said, I cannot force you to do it.
Except for schools, except for
He didn't say
hospitals,
except
except
for
for
schools.
this.
He said, I cannot enforce it. I cannot force.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Please. Okay. Because we get $125 million a year in state aid. What if he holds back 1 million? You know where that goes? Okay.
We keep living in fear. He's bullying the hell out of every district. We keep living in fear of this man, the great man behind the curtain. Why? Why do we keep living? What if every school district stood up? What if Sachem was the leader that said, let's do it? And what if everybody stood behind us? Then let me see this man tell every district that that he's gonna mask mandate, that he's gonna take your funding away if you don't wear your mask.
I'm going to say one last thing, and the vote is taken, no one's mind is going to change, but I say this more as a public service announcement. I find myself often thinking about some general who made the following statement, and I don't remember who it was, I only remember reading it. But he said, you don't win wars by killing people. He said, you win wars by creating fear and demoralizing your enemy to where he will not fight anymore. And that's exactly where we are. It's a damn mask. We can't even push back on this with 15 days of school left to try to set the tone that we don't want these, most of the community doesn't want it, and that people who do want it can have it, but the rest of us don't want it. And that just says a lot about where we are, not just as a board, but where we are as a society.
The next meeting of the Sachem Board of Education will be Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 at 7:30 in the Samoset, back in the auditorium? Back in the auditorium. Can I have a motion and a second to move into executive session to discuss collective negotiations, the employment of a particular personnel, and the sale or lease of real property? Motion by Bill, second by Laura, all in favor? Good night, everyone.